Good morning, students. Welcome to the lecture of real analysis. Today we are going to start a new unit of syllabus, unit number 4, implicit function and extremum or problem. Before that, we will just have a look to the concepts we have taken in the last lecture. In the last lecture, we have studied the important theorem proving if the differentiability or differentiable value of the given function at every point of the domain is 0, then the function is constant. That is, though the nature of a function is to be multivariable, multi-valued, still we get if the differential value, that is total derivative, is 0 for each c in S, then we get the function to be constant on S. In order to prove this, we have used one theorem that every open connected subset is polygonally connected. Okay, this statement we were using without proof. By using this statement, what we were going to do, we will consider any two arbitrary points of the domain space. Domain space S is nothing but an n-dimensional subspace of an n-dimensional space. Therefore, between these two points, or by the theorem, one can say these 2 points are joined by the polygonal arc, and we are going to mark the points on these arc to be some P1, P2 to PR. Okay. Now we will mark the point in such a way that we will mark the point so near to one another in such a way that as the arc is lying in the CATS, then the line segment joining the two lines will be also in the same set. Once we get the line segment joining the 2 points Pi plus 1 and Pi is in S, then we can use mean value theorem. Mean value theorem for multivariable functions we have seen in the last lecture. This form is very similar to one variable, but on both the sides we have to take a dot product with an arbitrary vector A in the domain space Rn. Then we have written this, and as the statement is true for every vector A and for every I, just if I just put the values of I equals to 1 to R minus 1 and added in all the equations, we will get A dot Fy minus Fx is equals to 0, as it is true for all vectors in Rm. Therefore, A we will substitute as Fy minus Fx, which in turn gives us Fy is equal to Fx. Okay, proving that the function is constant. Later we have seen the Taylor series. With the help of Taylor series, actually we are able to find out the value of a function near to the given point C, provided the value of a function and all its derivative at the point C are known to us. Okay. Then we were writing this as a linear polynomial, assuming that x minus c is small. Therefore, whatever this approximation we were writing, this approximation is correct only if x minus c is small. But what will happen if x minus c is not small? This approximation may give us a wrong value. Therefore, whatever it is, though x minus c is small or not, finally this is an approximate value of the function at the point x. We cannot call this as an accurate value. Okay. In order to convert this approximate value to accurate one, Taylor has given a theorem with the existence of a point x1. Okay, like this. We have discussed in detail. No, if f is the function having a finite infinite derivative, this is for the function of R to R type. Here I will write the function is of R to R type. Correct, na? Now what this says, function is having finite nth derivative in an open interval, assuming fn minus 1 is continuous. We have proved that for every x in AB, x not equals to c, there exists a point x1 on the line segment on the interval between x to c, such that this series gets converted to an approximate. Series is get converted to an equation. So whatever is the approximate value we are getting by Taylor series, with this Taylor theorem we were getting a accurate value. Now we want to check whether the same kind of theorem holds good for the functions of Rn to R type. For this, first we have checked out what is the notation, because here also we have to take nth order directional derivative, because the nature of the function we were selecting is Rn to R, and we know the directional derivative formula, and later we have extended this to higher order derivative. First order directional derivative gets this equation number 1. By doing some mathematical steps, we have calculated second order derivative as well, third also, and one can continue. Now we will try to understand what is the statement of Taylor's theorem for the functions of the type Rn to R. Therefore, it was again given an existence of a point Z, which is giving us an existence of a point Z on the line segment L of AB where the statement is true. In order to prove this theorem, with the help of given theorem F, we were going to construct a new function, say G, which is of the type R to R. For this, we have taken this line segment belonging to S. For the value of t belongs to minus delta to 1 plus delta, we were going to define a function G as G of t equal to F of this line segment, that is A plus t times B of it. If I take this value, G of 1 is F of B, G of 0 is F of A. Therefore, this will be a function of R to R type. If it is a function of R to R type, Taylor's theorem is already true. So we have written the Taylor's theorem. But for which two values we have written? A is equal to 1, B is equal to 0. Okay. Then we what is the aim? Just to find out these higher order derivatives of G. Knowing G as a composite function of F and T, F of P of T, we have calculated the derivatives G dash T, which actually a directional derivative of F at point Pt in the direction B minus A. Similarly, second order derivative of G is second order directional derivative of F. Similarly, for mth order derivative, then we have just substituted all the values in the equation and we got the proof of the corresponding statement. This is what we have done in the last theorem, Taylor's theorem for the functions of Rn to R type. Okay, is there any difficulty with this?
No, ma'am.
Good. Now we will go for next chapter, implicit function theorem. Check, now is the screen visible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Lecture number 40, implicit function and extremum problems. Okay, as the heading of this unit is implicit function and extremum problem, these two words are not new to us. Correct, na? We have heard these two words previously, implicit function and extremum problems. Can anyone tell me any of the words which you know among these? Implicit function, do you know? Or extremum problems? Because this unit is divided into two parts, implicit function and extremum problem. There were in all 8 to 9 theorems in this last unit. Okay. What about extremum problems? Extrema problems we have studied, no? Somewhere in 12th standard itself. How to find out the extrema for the functions of one variable? How to find out the extrema of functions of one variable? I hope I am clearly audible. I'll come to this word implicit function later. What is extrema of f of x? Students, what happened? Voice audible or not? My voice. Hello?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You should respond me, then only I can understand that I am audible to you clearly. Otherwise, I have a doubt whether the voice is audible or not. Yes. What do you know about extrema problems? You can tell me in Marathi also. Yes. What is extrema? Suppose a one variable function is given to you f of x. Suppose in some of the domain a to b say, okay, and it is asked to find out the extrema of this function. How you are going to find out the extrema?
First we take f dash of x equal to 0, ma'am.
Good. First we were taking f dash of x is equal to 0. Then
F double dash of x.
suppose this is 0 at x equal to c. Correct, na? F dash of x is 0 at x equal to c. Then we were finding, yes, Rituj, I think, second order derivative at the point c, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Then
If it is greater, then it will be infima.
minima,
minima.
and
And if
x is
less
equal
than, then it will be maxima.
to, it is less than 0, f is maximum. Now tell me the reason why we were doing this process, entire process.
To calculate extremum value.
Yes, no. No doubt to calculate the extremum value we were doing this process. But what you have understood by putting f dash of x is 0, and how can I say that if double dash of c is greater than 0, this is minimum. Less than 0, it is maximum. How can you understand? कसं समजलं हे तुम्हाला? असं केल्यावर मिनिमाच येतो, मॅक्सिममच येतो.
Ma'am, f dash of x equal to 0 means tangent येणार आणि ते अप्पर कर्व असेल तर इन्फिमा अँड असं लोअर यू असेल तर मॅक्झिमा.
हे असं असेल. आणि इथे टँजंट 0 असं म्हणायचं का तुम्हाला?
येस मॅम.
सेकंड ऑर्डर डेरिव्हेटिव्ह कुठे आला याच्यात?
कॉन्कॅव्हिटी ऑफ मीन्स सेकंड डेरिव्हेटिव्ह पॉझिटिव्ह असतं.
येस मॅम. हा.
Good. Okay. Therefore, what you do? This is a homework I am giving you. We will come to this extrema problem later because this is my second point of the syllabus, right? Therefore, up to this implicit function, you have to give me the correct answers. You are going approximately correct, but I want a detailed answer. Why f double dash of c greater than 0 gives us the concavity or convexity, whatever it is. Why you have to answer to every question. Here, why we are finding f dash of x is equal to 0, why f double dash of c at the point greater than 0 gives us the concavity or convexity. Similarly here. Okay, this 2-3 days you have to utilize in order to find out the answers of all these questions. You have told me half of this geometrical interpretation, no doubt. Okay, now the remaining half, you take your 2-3 days time and you have to tell me once I start extrema problem. Therefore, let me come to this first point of implicit function. Now tell me what is implicit function. What is implicit function? What kind of nature we were writing so that the function is implicit? There are two types of functions we were writing, no? First type we were writing as y equal to f of x, and second type we were writing some f of x y is equal to 0. Which one of them is implicit? Which one of them is explicit? Because in this implicit function point, we are going to study the implicit function theorem, which will help us to write the function in an explicit form, or rather we were going to understand the conditions for the implicit function to write in the explicit way. And this total theory depends on the Jacobian matrix, which we have seen in the last lecture. I think you have studied the Jacobian matrix in your BSc level also, no? Jacobian matrix.
Yes ma'am.
What is the use or application of Jacobian matrix? To convert the variables, no? To change the variables, I think we have used.
Yes ma'am.
Okay, I'll come to that point later because that implicit function theorem which we want to deal with is actually for multivariable, multi-valued functions. Time being, we will deal with only two variables, y equal to f of x and f of x y is equal to 0. Which one of the function is implicit in nature and which one is explicit in nature? I think we were using one word, na? Y is expressed explicitly in terms of x. Y is expressed explicitly in terms of x. The theory we have to generalize for the functions of multivariable. Therefore, the idea regarding one variable or two variables should be clear to you. Then only one can understand the theory regarding the many variable function. Right? Y equal to f of x. I said explicit or implicit?
Explicit.
Good, this is explicit. I've given you a hint, no? And what about this? This is
Implicit.
implicit. Now my next question is, can we convert every implicit function in terms of explicit way? The question is,
Yes, ma'am.
yes? Is everyone sure about this? Whether every implicit is written in terms of explicit? Hmm?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me give you one example. Let me write an implicit form of the function in two variables, right? Let it be some x square plus y square minus 1 is equal to 0. This is a function in xy. This is the function in xy. No doubt implicit in nature. Now we'll try to convert it into an explicit form, trying to find out y equal to f of x or x equal to some g of anything on that side. Okay. Now here what will be the value if I calculate for y? Y square is 1 minus x square. That of y can be written as like this, no? Is it the function? Is it the explicit function?
Yes, ma'am.
Whether y is a function? Yes? What
Yes,
is the
ma'am.
value of y for x equal to 0? What is
Plus
the
minus
value?
1.
Plus minus 1. Is it a function then? You are getting two values of y for a value x equal to 0.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Why it is not? According to the function definition,
Must
every
assign unique value.
yes, the function should be assigned a unique value for every element in the domain. Correct now? For every element in the domain. Also, what is the value of x? For x greater than 1, not x greater than 1. First difficulty is here y assumes two values. Correct. What is the second difficulty? If I take the value of mod x greater than 1, mod x greater than 1 means what? Value of x greater than 1. If it is greater than 1, what is the value of y? We are in real analysis. The function of the type we were considering is of the type R2R. If I take the value of x greater than 1, suppose if I take 2, what will be the value of y? For x equal to 2, what is the value of y? 2 square I have to substitute 1 minus.
Imaginary मध्ये येते ma'am.
Yes, it is y is
Complex.
imaginary. And this is what another problem. Therefore, if what one has to do? One has to restrict the domain from -1 to 1 to R. Okay. Now also in between this -1 to 1, though I put -1 to 1, again this condition is going to be there. Na? Y assumes two values. Means there is a difficulty in writing this implicit function into an explicit form. Therefore, it is not always essential that we can write an explicit function format into an implicit function format into an explicit form. Now, in order to write this, there are some conditions imposed on the function. Okay. Likewise, for this function, we were going to impose the condition that the derivative of the function at this point must be non-zero. Let me calculate the derivative. Okay. Let us find the derivative. Let us find the derivative of f or f of xy is equal to 0. What is the derivative? Function is x square plus y square minus 1. No? X square plus y square minus 1 is equal to 0. Right? Then let me take a derivative. Is it 2x? Let me differentiate with respect to x. So this is 2x, 2y dy by dx. Correct? No? This derivative is 0 is equal to 0. Let me cancel 2 throughout. Therefore, what is the value of y I am getting? Dy by dx I am getting say minus x by y. Minus x by y. But what is y we were writing? Under root 1 minus x square. Let me restrict the value of x between minus 1 to plus 1. Therefore, this is plus minus actually. This is plus minus. Okay. Now, what is the value of this derivative at x equal to 0?
0.
This is 0. Therefore, the value or the function cannot be defined on this total interval minus 1 to 1 because this total interval includes the value 0 as well. Correct, na? Derivative of the function at this point is 0. Therefore, one cannot define this to be an explicit form of function on this whole interval minus 1 to 0. Minus 1 to plus 1. Therefore, either we have to define this on an open interval minus 1 to 0 or for 0 to 1. Therefore, what will happen if I am going to define this for 0 to 1? Means we were taking x to be only positive value and then x to be negative value. Therefore, restricting y to take either positive values or negative values, one can say that this can be written in an explicit form. Therefore, how we have decided this? Yes. Function can be defined either on minus 1 to 0 or 0 to 1. But if I take minus 1 to 0 as the values of x here, still we were getting y as two different values. For restricting here the function to be either, what should I restrict the codomain? I should restrict the codomain to be either r plus or r minus, then this will be a function. So see how many difficulties we have faced in order to convert this simplest form of an implicit function to an explicit one. For the value, the nature of converting implicit to explicit depends on its derivative. Okay, depends on its derivative. Correct? No. Let me go to more general multivariable case. Let me go to more general case. Here I have written this as example. Let me write this as an example 1. In example 2, I will go for more general example of multivariable because in our chapter we were going to deal with many variable functions, right? So let me write one small example. Now what I will do, I'll take a system of many variables, system of many equations in many variables. In a standard form, I can write the linear simultaneous non-homogeneous equations. Let me write a11 x1, a12 x2, so on up to a1n xn is equal to t1. a21 x1, a22 x2, this is a2n xn is equal to t2. Right. Next, last say an1 x1, an2 x2 plus an xn is equal to tn. Therefore, what is the system we have taken? N equations. N equation. Now, what I am going to write? I am going to write every equation. I am going to write every equation as a function of n variables. Function of n plus 1 variables. Many variables I can write. Okay, now what I am going to take? I am going to take the right hand side constants to be some t, and we will write it as a vector. Just a minute, there may be a loose connection in the internet. Now this vector t I am going to write as all right hand side constants, t1, t2 up to tn. And no doubt this is a vector in an R in a space. Okay. Now let me write this first function as a function f1 in terms of how many variables? x1, x2 up to xn and t equal to 0. For What is the second function I am going to write? Let me write it as f2 x1 x2 to xn and t is equal to 0. That are the last I am going to write as a nth function, say x1 x2 to xn and t is equal to 0. Now we have a system of n equations. Now, in order to find out the values of x in terms of the remaining variables, that is finding the values of the variables x in terms of t's, that is solving the system of equation. Now, what is the condition known to us if I want to solve this system of equation? The condition is known to us. Here, let me write this system of equation as f of x t is equal to 0, where the x, the vector x is variable x, interpol vector from the variables x1 to xn belonging to Rn. Is the point clear? And what is f I am writing? This is collection of the real valued functions f1, f2, f3. Okay, we have already mentioned. Now, can anyone tell me when the system of equation possesses the solution? When the values of x in terms of t can be obtained? I think you are familiar with this type of equation, na? Ax is equal to b. Then this system of equation will have a solution of the type x equal to a inverse b. But when this a inverse is going to exist, what is the condition
If
for
determinant a not equal to 0.
Yes, determinant is not equal to 0. That is the coefficient matrix is non-singular. Therefore, what is the coefficient matrix in this case? Yes, coefficient matrix in this case.
A11.
N cross n matrix.
Yes, someone is giving the answer.
A11, A12.
This is A11, A12 up to A1n, A21, A22 up to A2n, and continuing this is up to AN1, AN2 and ANn. Okay, but if I write this as in terms of, if I want to write this as in terms of partial derivatives of f1, may I say if this first equation is f1, this a11 is the resultant of differentiating f1 with respect to x1. This a11
Yes,
is
ma'am.
the value of partial derivative of f1 with respect to x1. a12 is the derivative of f1 with respect to x2. 1n is the derivative of f1 with respect to xn. Correct now? So let me write it in terms of partial derivatives. For this first one, can I write as rho f1 by rho x1. Second entry is f1 by x2. Last entry is f1 by xn. Similarly, may I write the second one? f2 by x1, f2 by x2, f2 by xn. And the last one is fn by x1, fn by x2 and fn by xn. Correct, no? Now this is nothing but a Jacobian matrix we have seen in the last unit. Therefore, this system of equations will possess a solution. For the above system possess a solution. Possess the solution only if determinant A not equals to 0. Determinant A is not equals to 0. And what is A we have obtained? Is it a Jacobian matrix? Therefore, Jacobian matrix plays a important role while converting an implicit function to an explicit. Very similarly, in the first example also, the total value depends on the derivative, where this derivative is nothing but a Jacobian matrix again. Why? Because this is only one variable function. No, therefore it has only one derivative, dy by dx. Therefore, this implicit to explicit nature again depends upon this derivative. In case of many variables also we have seen, that is if I want to find x in terms of t's, That is, if I want to write explicitly x in terms of t's, then this value depends upon the Jacobian matrix. That is, determinant of the Jacobian matrix must be non-zero is the essential condition. Correct now? Therefore, converting implicit to explicit is not an easy task. It has to satisfy the restriction. What is the first restriction we have seen? Determinant of the Jacobian matrix must be non-zero. Okay. Now, before going to the main chapter, again let me tell you what are the applications of the Jacobian. What are the applications or use of Jacobian? Use of Jacobian. Let me start with one-dimensional space. One-dimensional space. In one-dimensional space, if I want to change the variable in an integration, how can we change the variables? Suppose I have an integration a to b f of x dx, and I want to change the variable x to u. How can I change the variable? Yes, I want to substitute x as x of u. We were many times changing the variables, no, in integration. X as equal to x of u, I want to substitute. Then what is the corresponding effect on the integration? This becomes x of u. X I have replaced as x of u. X is a function of u, say. Then what is this dx? What this dx becomes? What is dx then? Is it dx by du into du?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is dx by dA into du. And for the corresponding values of x, let u take some new variable, say alpha and beta. Then what this involved is, this is a one-dimensional Jacobian matrix. Correct, no? Because we have only one function in one variable. Therefore, only one derivative exists, and that is dx by d. Okay, if I want to do the same thing in two-dimensional spaces, that is, if I want to change the variable in a double integration. Okay, therefore, here I need a continuous 1-1 transformation. For a continuous 1-1 transformation from xu to uv, xy to uv, xy to uv. Now we have changed this. Let me substitute x as x of uv. In ordinary derivative or in integration calculus, you have studied these rules. Integration, suppose double integration depend on a region f of xy dx dy. Right? And how I'm going to change? Suppose the region changes to r dash. F I'm going to substitute as x as a function of uv. Similarly, y is also a function of uv. Then what is the corresponding change? Here we were writing Jacobian of xy with respect to uv into du by dd. Do you recall this or not? केले की नाही असं? पाहायचं नाही मला मॅडम तुम्हालाच नाही. हो तरी म्हणा, नाही तरी म्हणा.
Yes, ma'am. Kehle.
केलं ना? Therefore, this is a Jacobian matrix.
Yes, ma'am.
This is a Jacobian, not matrix actually. Here also I written matrix. Sorry, this is not Jacobian. If I take the determinant, it becomes Jacobian, not a matrix. Here we were taking a determinant of a Jacobian matrix. Okay. Let me remind you with an example again here. What is the example? To find the area of a circle, say. Double integration you have solved. To find the area of integration, A is equal to this is double integration dx dy. Okay. If I want to change from Cartesian coordinates to polar coordinates, theta. What is the substitution we were giving? X as r cos theta, y as r sin theta. Okay. Then what is the change? How this is the change we were writing? Double integration. Let me say a is equal to 0 to pi. I will not go to the limits now. 0 to r and 0 to 2pi. What is the Jacobian now? X, y with respect to r theta into dr d theta. What is the Jacobian value?
R.
Okay, you know directly, good. This is dou xy by dou r theta. This is actually cos theta dou x by dou r. And what is dou x by dou theta? Minus r sin theta. Right? Then dou y by dou r is sin theta. Dou y by dou theta is r cos theta. And if I take a multiplication, this is r cos square plus r sin square, that is r theta. But here we were writing double integration r dr by d theta. And these change of variables could be possible only if these determinants are not equal to 0. Okay. Similarly, in three-dimensional space, this is a region we say function of three variables x, y, z, dx, dy, and dz. Okay. Then I want to change it to UVW, say a new region v dash. Function is new function, say here. UVW. What should be a value here? Jacobian x, y, z upon UVW into du, dv, and dw. Triple integration we were using for finding the volume of the given surfaces, right? No? Okay. If I understood what is the problem we were going to discuss in this topic, changing implicit function to an explicit form in case of multivariable. In case of one variable, we have observed that the value totally depends upon the Jacobian. Okay, the value totally depends upon the Jacobian. If the Jacobian is non-zero, then only we were going to get this change. Okay, so let me start. Let me write the introduction of the topic. In the introduction, we were going to write simply that we are going to deal with the multivariable function of f of xt is equal to 0. Okay. Then the question is, can we have x in terms of t or t in terms of x? Okay. And this problem assumes a more general form when we have a system of several equations involving several variables. Okay. And the same type of problem as above, we are expecting x and t are replaced by the vectors. Let me write everything so that we can read it later also. The implicit function theorem in its simplest form deals with an equation of the form is of the form f of xt is equal to 0. Let me call it as equation number 1. Now the problem is to decide whether this equation determines or determines x as a function of t. If so, we get what we get if it is possible, x is in terms of another function, okay, or some function g, okay. Now this is in case of two variables only. Now we are going to write the general form. Here the problem assumes a more general form. When we have a system of several variables, several equations in several variables. several equations involving several variables. And whether we can solve these equations for some of the variables in terms of remaining. Variables. Okay, this is the same type as problem as above. As above means that f of x2 which we have written here, na, by equation number. Same problem as above. Only if x and v, instead of x and t to be the variables, we will take this as a vectors. Above, except that x and t are replaced by vectors, and f and g are replaced by, here those f and g are real valued functions. Therefore, these two are replaced by vector valued function. Next, under the other general conditions, the solution always exists. And in this unit, we are going to understand those conditions only. Under the other general conditions, a solution always exists. So whatever the implicit function theorem we were going to study under this topic, this theorem gives us the solution. But the implicit function theorem gives a description of these conditions. And some conclusions about the solution. This is what an introduction of the fourth unit I have given you. I have not started the unit number 4 till now. If you have any difficulty up to this, you can just ask me. Otherwise, I will start the topic. Extrema problem that to be discussed after implicit function theorem. Because this is actually your today's homework. To find the questions, answer to these questions why. Okay. Then we have studied implicit function to convert to explicit. What are the difficulties? Okay, and we have seen what is the use of Jacobian matrix also. Any difficulty up to this?
No, ma'am.
Good. Now, before going to the main aspect, we were going to use the notation for the Jacobian matrix. Now here whatever is the function, say f is equal to f1, f2 to fn, and x is the variable, say x1, x2 to xn. Actually, in the previous lectures, we have seen the function of Rm to Rn, but here now we are going to study Rn to Rn because we are interested in finding the determinant of the Jacobian matrix, and we know determinant of a Jacobian determinant of any matrix exists only if it is a square matrix, right? If then the Jacobian matrix the symbol we were going to use for the Jacobian matrix is dfx, which is dj fi x is an n cross n matrix. n cross n matrix, and its determinant is called Jacobian determinant. Jacobian determinant, and denoted by, see, the symbol is capital J of a function here of at the point x. Okay, thus what is Jacobian determinant? J of x. This is determinant of d of x. Okay, what is d of x? This is actually dj of ix. All partial derivatives of the functions fi. Okay, therefore also this is one of the notation, and one notation that we have discussed. The notation dou f1 f22 fn upon dou x1 x22 xn is also used. This we have used in our previous examples. Is used to denote Jacobian determinant. Now, from further, we were going to use this notation, JFX. Okay. For under this unit, the first theorem we will study is, it's a very easy theorem actually. Theorem 1. Countdown start, 8 to 9 theorems we have in all, but some theorems are bigger. This one is smaller. Let me finish this story. Like, if f is equal to u plus iv is a complex valued function, with the derivative at point z in C, then prove that. What we want to prove? Jacobian determinant of the function f at the point z is mod of f dash of z bracket square. Mod of f dash of z. As it is a complex valued function, we know the derivative is obtained by. Yes, how the derivative of this complex valued function is being obtained? Taking partial derivatives, no? And for f dash of z is d1u plus I times d1v. Correct? Cauchy-Riemann equations we were going to use now. What is modulus value? Is it d1u bracket square plus d1v bracket square? What is mod f dash of z square? Taking square on both the sides. This is d1u bracket square plus d1v bracket square. Let me call it as statement number 1. Now this is what the value of mod f dash of z square. Let us find out the value of Jacobian. Also, what is the value of Jacobian determinant f at the point z? According to the derivative, according to the definition, this is the function of two variables u and v. Therefore, the Jacobian determinant is d1u, d2u, d1v, d2v. But what we know, how can I find out the matrix multiplication? How can I find out this determinant? d1u, d2v minus d1v, d2u. But as this function is complex value differentiable, hence Cauchy-Riemann equations hold. What are Cauchy-Riemann equations? Ux equal to vy, na?
Yes, ma'am. And
Let me
uy
write
is
in
equal
terms-
to minus
Let me write
bx.
in terms of this notation. d1u is equal to what it will be? Ux equal to vy. With this notation, what it will be? d1u is equal
D1v.
to d1v or d2v?
D2V.
This is
D2V.
D2. Good. This is D2v. And what the second equation? Uy equal to
Minus D1v.
Minus D1V.
Good. This is minus d1v. We will just substitute the value d2v. I will replace by d1u. Because this is d1u dot d1u minus this d2u. I will replace by minus d1. For what we have obtained, d1u bracket square added with d1v bracket square. Let me call it as statement number 2. And this from 1 and 2, what we have obtained? Look at this statement 1 and 2. Statement 1 is d1u square, d1v square. Here also we have the same. Therefore, what we have obtained, both the values are same. From 1 and 2, what we have obtained, jf at the point z is mod of dash of z bracket square. Any difficulty up to this? In the next lecture, we will see some of the properties of the functions whose Jacobian determinant is non-zero. And let us go on studying all the properties one by one. And at last, we will see the proof of implicit function theorem. Okay, we will stop for today. If you have any difficulties, you can ask me. Please unmute yourself and ask. From student side. Okay, from now onwards, the proof of the theorems are somewhat difficult, one can say. Okay, you just be with all my lectures live. Okay, and if you feel any difficulty at any stage, you can just ask. It seems there are no difficulties. Let me stop for today. Thank you for being with me for this lecture.